Hi, welcome to Having a Cuppa with Toowoomba.com.au. I'm Josie Howard, and today I've actually got Arthur Carpenter from Colliers International with me. Welcome, Arthur.
Thanks,
Why
Josie.
real estate?
It's all good news. We're creating something new with the commercial real estate that I'm in, is that we are moving something and changing it to how people want it to be to suit them. So
There's a lot happening in real estate in Toowoomba, isn't there?
It's fantastic time to be in real estate and fantastic time to be in Toowoomba. There's so much happening with CBD. You might have seen a couple of motels being demolished or refitted at the moment. And
it's pretty hard to miss. Yeah,
it is.
So let's go back a little bit. So you didn't start in real estate, and you probably didn't expect to be in real estate. Where did you start?
So I started in banking. So I started in the Commonwealth Bank back in Toowoomba in the early 80s. So
which sounds a long time ago now,
it does,
right? But it wasn't,
does.
Right? It really wasn't.
Time goes quick. But it was a time when there was no internet banking. It was passbooks and
your first job. I remember you telling me about your first job was what?
My first job in the bank was to grab the passbook. You actually had to slide your passbook down a chute with the withdrawal slip in it, and my job was then to grab the book with the withdrawal and go to a big cupboard that had a signature of everyone who had an account, grab the right one and take that to a supervisor to get them to authorise so that the client could get their own money out of their bank account. So how different is that then to what we have now?
I grew up in a small country town. I'm pretty sure we didn't have the chute, and most people knew each other, but you said that they're not allowed to, right? They weren't really allowed to do it without a proper authorisation.
No,
but I'm pretty sure
authorised.
it happened a bit in this little country town, Griffith, New South Wales. Won't tell anybody. So the other thing I thought was really interesting was you have a very bizarre story about one of your first experiences in banking, which was where you then went home for lunch. And
oh yes, I was only been in the bank a short time, and I was doing that job, and then all of a sudden someone jumped over the counter with a gun. And
what year was that?
So that would have been 83.
Wow.
And so they jumped over the counter with a gun, probably 3 or 4 feet away from me. I'm shocked, think, maybe it's just someone pretending, we're doing some sort of a trial or whatever. Practical joke or something. And then turned probably not so funny when he's starting to go into the tellers and grab money out of their thing and forcing them to put money into his bag. So we had probably 10 or 12 tellers.
But you'd done something like the day before.
The day before we had actually a training on, if we were being robbed, what to do. And that's why I didn't tweak as quick. I thought, we've had the training, now here's the practical part. But it was a real life experience. So in those days, you had a button under the counter to start a camera. You also had...
now that was interesting too. So you had to press the button, and it only took 6 frames.
So the cameras in those days, not like these days with the digital, it constantly monitors. So you'd have to push a button under the counter. It'd take a number of frames, say 6 frames, and then you would have to push it again physically to take the next sequence of photos. So,
but he was never caught, right?
No. Never caught. But
it gave you a promotion.
Well, it helped that because I did the right thing and didn't sort of panic or freak out. Was that I was entrusted.
Arthur the Brave?
No, I don't think so. I didn't think so.
Convenient training the day before.
It was, yes. But I was just entrusted with more responsibility. But going back to your question was that I went home for lunch that day, and my mum was...
Which wouldn't happen today, right? No. You had a hold up, there'd be counsellors in, police, everything, investigators.
Exactly.
So you went home for lunch?
So I went home for lunch, and would have been probably 1:30 or whatever, and my mum was home, and she says, you're late home. And I said, yeah, I was held up. And she said, okay, well, what do you want for lunch? And I said, no, Mum, I was held up. And she goes, what do you mean? And then so I started the story, and then it tweaked and as to which held up it was. But yeah, so that was my introduction to banking, you might say.
And you stayed in banking for a long time.
I did,
you didn't
yes.
leave it. You stayed there and worked your way through.
Stayed there, worked up from a variety of jobs and tellers, and then moved down to Brisbane and went into lending. So did personal lending, housing lending, then moved to commercial lending. Had been in there and then was doing commercial lending with that bank and a number of other banks until probably 4 years ago.
Okay. And so during that time too, you're a real person. You had a family. You
Yes.
had 2 daughters.
Yes.
Yeah, and a wife.
Yes.
Who's now your ex-wife.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you had an interesting journey with that too, and then had an injury.
Oh yes, well we moved back from, because we had relocated to Brisbane.
Yeah.
In those days it was sort of, if you were working in the same organisation in the same spot, it
So
became
this was
a little
your
bit difficult.
wife who you
Yes.
met, and you're both working together.
Yes.
Which wasn't appropriate.
Well, I thought it
According
was.
to the well, I think lots of people had relationships from work because there was no social media or Tinder or anything back then. So you met people at work.
Yes. So we moved down to Brisbane and we're happy down there, and yeah, then life moves on, and then came back to Toowoomba here and looking for a new start as to what to do, and was doing some gardening and was.
I found this interesting too. So you've been in commercial banking, very senior in commercial banking, moved to Toowoomba. You're actually struggling to find work at the same level that you'd been used to.
Yes.
So you're prepared to do anything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You want to be busy, right? Not
Definitely.
sit around.
Yeah. Well, if you've been busy all of your life, it's hard to not do anything. It's it becomes quite difficult.
And you like people,
Oh,
obviously.
yeah, love people.
Yeah.
So that was a no-brainer. But yeah, so I just helping out, doing a bit of gardening, and I ignored the warning, which everyone should really read the warnings on those ladders, is that I was trimming a hedge, got above the top, above the rung where it says it's safe, and stood on the top trying to reach out to get the hedge, and the ladder collapsed under me. So luckily I was holding a hedge trimmer thing. I didn't chop a hand or anything off. So
that was very lucky.
It was lucky, but I did injure my back, and so just had to work through that process as well.
And health is important, right? And you
It's
became a bit of
extremely.
a grumpy man with the pain.
Yeah, as anyone would with that sort of thing.
Pain's hard.
It is.
Very
It is.
hard, and there's not a lot you can do with pain.
No.
Yeah, and you got that fixed though?
Yes, got that fixed. Thank you to Dr. Zeller. I'll do a plug here. Dr. Zeller here
Go away, go for it.
in Toowoomba, did an amazing job from being in pain from when I was admitted before to being able to have zero pain and being able to move.
But there was an operation, wasn't
Yes,
it?
yes.
So
It was a fairly simple operation.
you kept putting it off.
I kept putting it off, but just a discectomy, nice and easy. My back's fantastic now, but it's I can't say enough. The difference is chalk and cheese.
So during that time, towards the end of it, you separated from your wife?
Yes.
You and your wife separated, yeah, and you've got 2 older daughters.
2 older daughters, 21 and 18.
Both here? Everybody's here?
Yes, everyone's here in Toowoomba, so they're going very well.
Loving Toowoomba?
Oh, love it, yeah.
You love it and the kids love it?
Yes. Toowoomba's a fantastic place. We've always had a connection with Toowoomba, and seeing it grow, it's the same as it was, but different. It's very open town, but also too has a familiarity, which I think I know I get comfort in.
Yeah, it is. It's quite interesting actually. I lived in Sydney for a long time, and what I found was eventually I didn't like being anonymous anymore. You actually like running into people and saying hi and having a chat at the shops and things, which in Sydney is a bit tricky, but I did find that eventually in Sydney, but I actually love it in Toowoomba too.
Yes.
And so you separated from your wife and you had about 12 months where you just did some work on you?
Yes, definitely. And
you weren't Tindering and Zoosking and... No?
No.
Not really.
Oh, I'm not really that sort of
person.
Well, relationships are tough at any time, and to start it off, well, from my thoughts anyway, under such pressure at the start, it's probably a little bit difficult. So yeah, it was about being a better person, being able to cope better, being able to understand people's positions better, and grow. That's
And we had a bit of a chat about this. So you feel very strongly too about men being able to talk to each other, and especially, I think you find it more in a country town. Guys want to be men and they don't want to be seen to be vulnerable, and so they don't talk about stuff. In the city, I think you probably find it sometimes a little bit more, but that getting guys to open up is really tricky here.
It is.
Or in country spaces.
I think men in general probably have, or from what I've seen, have a problem opening up a little bit.
With men.
With
they
men.
will often open up with women. Like I find a lot of guys will talk more freely with, a partner or a friend, a female friend, but men with men, they feel they have an image to keep.
That could be it.
Oh, maybe not an image. It's just they feel maybe they're vulnerable.
Definitely are. I mean, a lot of men through different stages in their life, as women, as we all do, we have different stages in our life, and we need support differently at different times in our lives. And
men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
Yeah, it's
pretty true. But bits of it are very true.
Yes.
For those who haven't read the book yet.
Yes, it is.
Actually, I think that was written in the 80s or 90s. Actually, I know that when I did, it is a good book. So we're in the same Rotary group, right?
Yes.
So, but you've only just joined.
Yes.
And I love this Rotary group because it's lots of like-minded people. Rotary Edge, fabulous service club in Toowoomba for younger people. When I say younger, I don't mean 18, under 50 or around that age. So there's a problem with succession in those service clubs too. So, I mean, what I've found is that it's actually quite nice with the co-ed environment. Men and women are engaging, and the men are engaging with men, and the women, I mean, I know the women in that group are amazing. And one of those women is somebody very special to you, which is how I initially met you. How did you meet Gay?
I met Gay, coincidentally enough. Gay's got a hair salon in Duggan Street.
And she actually does our hair for this show. She's a wonderful woman.
She does a whole heap of other really fantastic things too that I'm sure
we will talk to Gay because
later.
She's amazing.
My mum had been visiting her salon for a number of years, and
apparently 4. I found out the other day.
About
4.
Yeah, and she was without a partner, and my mum had just coincidentally said, "Well, Gay, you seeing anyone, or you?" And Gay said, "Well, no, I'm not." And she said, "Oh, I think you and my son Arthur would make a good couple, or you'd get on really well." And of course, Gay's thinking, well, Arthur, he has to be at least 75.
I think that's what she thought. She told me the other side of that story.
Because it's a fairly unusual name at the moment. It's not like other more popular names. So I spoke to her that night, and the rest is history, you might say. We got on like a house on fire,
And when you first saw each other, it was just instant.
Yeah, it was instant.
From my understanding, from both of you. So
definitely was. So I can vouch for that thing. You love at first sight, or you've got a feeling, just a connection that just happens, and it's easy.
That's great. So both of you, I mean, one of the things I think about both of you that's really strong and obvious is that you both have this same sense of values. Would that be right? So,
Definitely.
You just spoke to me about some of the things you appreciate about Gay, because she does a lot of charity work, some amazing things in this community, and I cannot wait to speak with her because it's a really interesting mix, isn't it? So you two have this really nice balance between you helping her to do good stuff and you wanting to absolutely be there with her and supporting her doing that, and you having an opportunity to do it too. So
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think you said something about, you had a little saying about, I can't remember what it was, something about supporting someone. So, you know, sometimes you're up here and they're down here and you just do the juggle kind of a thing to whatever needs to be done.
Yes, it's...
to get it happening.
It is, and we're fully supportive of each other, as I think you need to be in a relationship and a work environment anywhere. You need to be supportive so that you get the best outcome. We've got, like with the projects that Gay's involved with, they are for excellent causes, and we happy to put energy, as much energy as needs to go in them to get a good result. And
I can vouch for you being a good listener, because we had our pre-interview chat and we had 45 minutes, an hour talking about you, and then probably 2 hours talking about me. So I think Gay thinks you should move into counselling, but but look, so you moved into real estate.
Yes.
What I mean, we've talked about you having really strong values. What values do you bring into commercial real estate? Because people go, and I think you said to me, what did you think of real estate agents when you before you went into real estate?
Now, this is a long time ago. So
be honest.
It was that the dealings that I had with previous real estate agents weren't good. They were, you'd shake the hand, and as soon as they turned around, they changed, changed the whole scenario around, and I didn't find them. There was a great deal of, probably, to put it bluntly, dishonesty at the time with the agents there. So, and that gave, whether I just had the bad eggs or what, I don't know, but that gave the industry as a whole had a pretty poor reputation. We're getting more professional with what we do, which is what every organisation, every professional organisation should do.
There's been a real turnaround in real estate completely, and I think it started quite a long time ago. And so you're one of these new people coming through, bringing your value set through.
Totally, yes.
And I actually thought about it before too. The commercial banking would come into it as well, right? Especially since you're in commercial real estate, actually looking at what are viable options for people who are in business as far as their location and housing of their business goes, because it's critical. And in Toowoomba, we're seeing a huge change in that now, where we're actually seeing people rebuilding, doing funkier buildings, using alleyways, using all sorts of spaces to have their businesses in. Oh,
definitely. Well, unless you're substantially wealthy, you need to have some people in your corner. So you need to understand how that works and how it can work, so that everyone achieves the best outcome. So if you've got a good relationship with your bank, a good relationship with your real estate, say if you're doing a development, your real estate person with your plan and with your architect, then you're going to get the best outcome. I mean, I'm lucky enough to have been exposed to the commercial banking sector for a long time, so a wide range of things I've seen and able to have that experience to understand when talking with anyone in the group is how it fits with and get the best.
How long have you been with Colliers now?
So I've only been with Colliers a relatively short time, probably 3 months.
Oh, okay.
It's going really well. Fantastic team. Do a lot in the community, both well known, like there's the float in the carnival flowers that everyone will see, and
you do some charity and community work through Colliers
the company does do a lot of
which sits with your values.
Yes, definitely. It's a blokes thing. Projects like that where they are publicised, where everyone gets publicity, but also too things where there's not so much publicity. So
I have a real estate agent from Sydney who I've known now for, I think it's about 15 years. He still sends me a Christmas card. He's changed real estate agencies a couple of times, but he still sends me Christmas cards. Will you still do that?
Yes, definitely.
Will you still send your clients? And this is one of the things I've always, not only did he end up playing with our soccer club and stuff too, but he actually is genuine and keeps in contact. And I think that's one of the key things, isn't it? It's about relationships with real estate, and I think the good real estate agents are keeping in contact with people and having relationships with people, because that's what it's about.
Well, the same as like have a cup of thing. It's about relationships. At the end of the day, everything is about relationships, whether you're buying your groceries or whether you're doing a big project. If you have that relationship, then
and trust.
Well, that's it. Your relationship, you build the trust, and there can only be a great outcome. If you're looking out for each other and doing the right thing, it can only be a good outcome.
Thank you very much, Arthur. Really enjoyed chatting to you, and best of luck at Colliers. I'm sure you will do extremely well. And thanks for coming along today to have a coffee with me, which has gone cold, but that's okay.
No, that's great.
I'm sure we'll catch up again soon.
We will. Thanks Josie.